Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Austin always believed his life was on track. At 29, he worked as a financial analyst at a reputable company, owned a comfortable house in a quiet neighborhood, and, most importantly, had been married to Claire for 3.5 years. She was a nurse at a busy hospital, dedicated, caring, or so he thought, until 6 weeks ago, when small details started making less and less sense. Claire had always been practical. In their early years of marriage, she reserved Sundays for manicures, hair appointments, those kinds of things Austin never quite understood but respected. It was an established routine, predictable, comfortable. But recently, she started leaving her shift straight away, claiming she needed to stop by the salon before heading home. "Monica started taking evening clients now, it's just easier for me," she explained the first time. Austin didn't question it. Why would he? The thing was, Claire's nails weren't changing. He noticed it on a Tuesday when she walked in at 9:30 at night saying she'd just left the salon. Her nails still had the same red polish from the week before, the same shape, no sign they'd been redone. Austin casually remarked, "Looks nice, honey." She thanked him too quickly and headed straight for the shower. He stood there in the kitchen, feeling something strange settle in his stomach. The next week, it happened again. Claire left her shift at 5 in the afternoon and didn't get home until nearly 10. "The salon was packed today," she said, kissing him quickly before heading upstairs. Austin looked at her nails. The same nude pink shade she'd been wearing for 2 weeks. No change. No fresh shine. Nothing. He didn't say anything that night, but the seed of suspicion had already taken root. Austin wasn't the type to blow up or make scenes. His analytical nature drove him to look for patterns, gather data, and draw conclusions. So he started paying closer attention. Claire began coming home late more often, always using the same excuses about the salon or grabbing coffee with a hospital coworker. But when Austin asked for details, "Oh, you ran into Jessica. How's she doing?" Claire grew vague, offering generic answers. Once, she mentioned meeting a coworker named Sarah, but Austin knew there was no Sarah at Claire's hospital. He'd met her entire team at their holiday party. That's when Austin made a decision. Instead of confronting her with baseless suspicions, he needed proof. He needed to know whether he was losing his mind or whether his instincts were right. One Wednesday afternoon during his lunch break, he walked into an electronics store and bought a top-of-the-line smartwatch. It was a sophisticated model, with built-in GPS, heart rate monitoring, message notifications, perfect for a nurse who needed to track her own health during stressful shifts. Or at least, that's the story Austin planned to tell. That evening, he prepared a special dinner. Lit candles, played the song from their wedding, opened a bottle of wine. When Claire arrived, promptly at 6, coming straight from her shift with no mysterious stops, she was surprised and touched. "What's all this?" she asked, her eyes shining. Austin smiled and pulled out her chair. "It doesn't have to be a special occasion for me to show you how much I love you." They ate, talked, laughed. For a moment, Austin almost convinced himself he'd been wrong about everything. After dessert, he brought out a box wrapped in silver paper. "I have a gift for you. It's early, but our anniversary is coming up." Claire carefully unwrapped the box and widened her eyes when she saw the smartwatch. "Austin, this is way too expensive." He shook his head. "You work so hard, taking care of everyone else. I want you to take care of yourself too. This watch tracks everything, heart rate, steps, sleep quality. It'll help." Claire stood up and hugged him tightly. "I love you so much," she whispered in his ear. Austin hugged her back, but part of him already felt guilty for what he was about to do. Claire started wearing the watch right away. She synced it with her phone, set up notifications, showed him excitedly how the screen lit up when she flicked her wrist. Austin installed the companion app on his own phone, it allowed multiple devices to connect to the same account, a feature designed for families wanting to monitor each other's health. Claire didn't notice. Why would she? She had nothing to hide, right? The first few days were normal. Austin discreetly checked the GPS and saw Claire exactly where she was supposed to be: at the hospital during shifts, at the grocery store when she said she was shopping, at the gym 3 times a week. He started feeling ridiculous. He was spying on his own wife like a paranoid fool. Maybe the salon visits were real, and she just kept the same nail style because she liked it. Maybe he was destroying their trust over his own insecurity. But then came the following Thursday. Austin was at the office, reviewing financial spreadsheets, when he decided to check the app one more time. Claire had left her shift at 5, he knew because she'd texted, "Leaving now, honey. Stopping by Monica's salon. I'll be home around 8. Austin opened the map on his phone. The little blue dot representing Claire was stationary. But it wasn't at Monica's salon. It was at an unfamiliar location on the outskirts of town. He zoomed in, trying to read the street name, figure out what was at that address. His heart sank when Google Maps loaded the image. It was a motel. A rundown roadside place with peeling paint and a flickering neon sign advertising hourly rates available. The blue dot was somewhere within that area. The GPS margin of error didn't pinpoint the exact spot, but it had definitely been within that perimeter for the past 30 minutes, according to the location log. Austin's hands started trembling. He read and reread the address, as if it might change. But it didn't. Claire was somewhere inside that motel. And there wasn't a single salon within a 5-mile radius. Austin stood up so fast he knocked over his chair. He grabbed his car keys, but his hands shook so badly he nearly dropped them. He practically ran out of the office, ignoring his secretary's puzzled look. In the elevator, he took deep breaths, trying to control the wave of nausea rising in his throat and the tremor spreading through his body. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe the GPS was wrong. Maybe Claire was helping a coworker in an emergency. Maybe. Maybe. He called her as he got into his car. The phone rang 3 times before she answered. "Hey, honey." Her voice sounded cheerful, carefree. Austin swallowed hard and forced a casual tone. "Hey, beautiful. Everything okay? How's the salon?" Claire laughed. "Oh, busy as always. Monica's finishing up with a client, then it's my turn. Should be another 40 minutes or so, okay?" Austin started the car, keeping the phone on speaker. "No problem. How's the traffic out there?" She replied without hesitation, "Smooth sailing." Austin pressed hard on the accelerator. The motel was 25 minutes away. He drove at the speed limit, cutting off cars, running yellow lights. The call was still connected, and he could hear Claire breathing on the other end, occasionally talking to someone in the background. But those weren't salon sounds. There was no hair dryer noise, no animated chatter among women, no background music. Just silence and, faintly in the distance, the muffled sound of a TV. When he finally reached the motel, Austin parked across the street, hiding behind a delivery van. From there, he had a direct view of the rooms. The place was worse than it looked in photos: moisture-stained walls, torn window curtains, a flickering fluorescent sign missing letters that read "motel." He looked at his phone. The GPS showed Claire was somewhere in that row of rooms. Then he saw it: only one car in the indicated area, a black pickup parked right in front of room 8. It had to be there. Austin looked at his phone. The call was still active. Claire was on the other end, completely unaware her husband was less than 50 feet away. He felt a toxic mix of anger, sadness, and a strange calm, the calm that comes just before the storm. "Honey, you still there?" Her voice broke the silence. Austin cleared his throat. "Yeah. just thinking. It's taking a while tonight, huh? I thought you'd be heading home by now. Claire gave a nervous laugh. Yeah, Monica got behind with the last client. You know how it goes. Austin closed his eyes for a second. Then he opened the smartwatch app on his phone. Among its many features was one called Find Device, designed to help locate the watch if it was lost. When activated, the watch emitted a loud, continuous beeping sound. Austin placed his finger over the button. Claire, he said, his voice colder than he intended. Honey? Then he pressed it. On the other end of the line, a sharp, piercing electronic beep exploded, impossible to ignore, impossible to hide. Austin heard Claire gasp, heard her scramble, heard what sounded like a man's voice in the background asking, "What the hell is that?" The beeping continued, insistent, metallic. "What's that noise I'm hearing?" Austin asked, each word measured. Claire replied too quickly, her voice an octave higher than normal. "Oh, it's just the watch you gave me. Must be glitching, how weird." She tried to laugh, but it came out as a choke. Austin could hear her frantically pressing buttons, trying to silence the alarm. The beeping stopped after a few seconds, leaving a heavy silence. Austin counted to 3 in his head. Then, with the coldest voice he'd ever used, he said, "That really is weird, Claire. Real weird. Because I'm hearing that beep too. Right out here. In front of the motel." Absolute silence. Austin could picture her expression, the blood draining from her face, her eyes widening, reality crashing down like an anvil. "Austin, the call cut off." Claire had hung up on him. Austin slowly got out of the car. He crossed the street with his hands in his pockets, every step deliberate. He stopped about 5 meters from room 8's door and waited. It didn't take even a minute. The door flew open, and Claire stumbled out. Her hair was messy, damp at the ends. Her nurse's blouse was hastily buttoned, 2 buttons in the wrong holes. Her face was streaked with smeared mascara. She saw Austin and let out a sound halfway between a whimper and a sob. "Austin, please, let me explain." She ran toward him, tried to grab his hands, but he stepped back. It wasn't anything, it was just, she couldn't even finish her sentence, choking on tears and panic. Austin stared at her as if she were a stranger. Then the room door opened again. Nathan stepped out, adjusting his t-shirt. Nathan, Austin's best friend since sophomore year of college. The guy who'd been his best man at their wedding. The guy who spent every Thanksgiving at their place because his own family lived out of state. Nathan looked at Austin and went pale. "Dude, he held out his hands in a useless gesture. "I can explain." Something inside Austin snapped. It wasn't just his wife's betrayal. It was the double betrayal. It was knowing the 2 people he trusted most in the world had conspired behind his back, laughed at him, turned his life into a lie. He looked at Nathan and said, his voice eerily calm, "My best man. My brother." Nathan dropped his gaze, unable to hold eye contact. Claire tried again, grabbing the sleeve of Austin's shirt. "It was a mistake. It only happened a few times. I love you, you have to believe me." Austin finally looked at her. Really looked. He saw the genuine desperation in her eyes, the smudged makeup, her trembling lip. And he felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just an immense emptiness. "I don't want to hear it," he said softly. Then he took off his gold wedding band. He weighed it in his palm for a second, as if measuring the weight of 3.5 years of marriage. Then he tossed it onto the motel's gravel parking lot. It bounced twice and landed near a drainage ditch. Claire dropped to her knees, scrambling to grab the ring, getting mud on her knees, sobbing hysterically. Austin turned and walked back to his car. "Austin! Austin!" Claire screamed, but he didn't look back. He got in the car, his hands still shaking on the wheel. He started the engine and drove off. In the rearview mirror, he saw Claire still on the ground, Nathan trying to help her up, two traitors in the pathetic setting of a rundown motel. Austin drove home on autopilot, not even remembering how he got there. His vision blurred, the tears he'd held back during the entire confrontation finally streaming down silently. His eyes burned, his clenched jaw ached. When he arrived, he went straight to the bedroom. He pulled a large suitcase from the closet and started throwing Claire's clothes inside, dresses, pants, shoes, without any care. He carried the suitcases to the garage. When she showed up, and he knew she would, she'd find her things packed. There'd be no discussion. No yelling. No drama. Just the end. Claire arrived half an hour later. She came in through the front door using her key, her eyes still red, her voice hoarse. "Austin, we need to talk." He was sitting in the living room, hands clasped, staring into nothing. "Your things are in the garage. You can stay at your mom's. Tomorrow I'll call a lawyer." Claire approached, trying to sit beside him, but Austin stood up. "No. Don't touch me. Don't talk to me. Just get your stuff and leave." "But I live here. This is my home too." Austin finally looked at her with an intensity that made her step back. "Not anymore. You lost that right the moment you decided to sleep with my best friend in a trashy motel. You lost everything, Claire. Absolutely everything." She tried to argue, to justify, to beg. But Austin was unmoved. Eventually, defeated, she grabbed her bags and walked out the door. The following days were mechanical. Austin hired the most aggressive lawyer he could find. He presented all the evidence, GPS location data showing a pattern of visits to the motel over several weeks, messages he'd recovered from their shared household email account, he'd never touched anything private until then, and a statement from a motel employee who recognized Claire's photo as a frequent guest. The lawyer carefully reviewed everything. GPS data alone can be challenged. The email too. But combined with the employee's testimony and the fact you witnessed it yourself, that'll carry serious weight. Claire hired a lawyer too, and the process took longer than Austin expected. Her attorney questioned the GPS evidence, claimed invasion of privacy regarding the email, and tried to discredit the motel employee's testimony. It dragged on for 3 months, court hearings, paperwork, depositions. Claire argued that Austin had been emotionally distant, worked too much, made her feel neglected for years. But in the end, the weight of evidence prevailed, the documented pattern of lies, unexplained absences, the flagrant incident Austin had witnessed firsthand, and, most crucially, Nathan's sworn testimony. He confirmed the affair under oath, trying to downplay his guilt but admitting everything. The judge ruled adultery proven. The house stayed with Austin, who had paid most of the down payment. Asset division favored him. Claire received no alimony, the marriage had lasted less than 10 years, and she had a stable job and comparable income. Nathan tried calling Austin several times. He left long, tearful voicemails begging for forgiveness. Austin blocked his number. Nathan also lost his fiancée, a woman named Rebecca he'd been engaged to for a year. When Rebecca found out about the affair, she ended it and mailed back the ring. Nathan was gradually cut off from their friend circle. Nobody wanted to associate with someone who'd betrayed trust so profoundly. Claire lost friends too. The news spread quickly, as it always does in smaller communities. Hospital co-workers started treating her coldly. She requested a shift transfer just to avoid judgmental stares. Austin heard through others that she was living in a tiny apartment across town, had lost a lot of weight, and seemed like a shadow of her former self. He felt no pity. Months passed. Austin sold the house, too many bad memories, and bought a modern apartment closer to work. He started therapy, not because he was devastated, but because he wanted to process everything in a healthy way. His therapist helped him understand the betrayal wasn't his fault, that there was nothing he could have done differently. Claire had made a choice. Nathan had made a choice. Now they were living with the consequences. Austin also started dating again, slowly, without pressure. He met a woman named Elena at an art exhibit. She was an architect, 31, also divorced. They talked about art, life, new beginnings. There was something light between them, no heavy expectations, no impossible promises. Just two people learning to trust again. It was on a Saturday afternoon, nearly a year after the motel discovery, that Austin ran into Claire. He was leaving a cafe with Elena, laughing at some silly joke, when he spotted a familiar figure across the street. Claire was behind a table at a small craft fair, selling handmade necklaces and bracelets, probably a side gig to supplement her income. She looked thinner, visibly older, with deep under-eye circles and dull hair. She wore simple, faded clothes. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. Claire stood up from her chair, her expression shifting from surprise to something resembling desperate hope. She took a step toward Austin, mouth opening as if to say something. Austin just gave a brief, polite nod, the kind you offer a casual acquaintance, and kept walking, placing his hand gently on Elena's back. Claire stood frozen, watching him disappear into the crowd. Austin didn't look back. He didn't feel the need to. That chapter was closed, its pages permanently glued shut. He'd learned that trust is the foundation of everything, and when that foundation cracks, there's no fixing it. Only demolition and rebuilding. As for the smartwatch he'd given Claire, Austin returned it to the store a week after the divorce was finalized. He got a full refund. He didn't need tracking devices, technological subterfuge, or elaborate traps anymore. He'd learned to read people for real. He'd realized some signs don't require GPS to detect. You just need to pay attention. You just need to listen to your gut. And you need the courage to act when the truth, however painful, reveals itself. And now, Austin had all the courage in the world. Because surviving that, rebuilding his life from the wreckage of a double betrayal, had changed something fundamental in him. It hadn't made him bitter or cynical. Just wiser. More careful about who he let in. More aware that not everyone deserves a place in your story. Some people are chapters. Others are just footnotes. Claire and Nathan were less than that. They were typos he'd corrected and moved on from. Life went on. And Austin was okay. Genuinely okay. Sometimes at night, before falling asleep, he'd think back to that fateful Thursday, the shrill beep of the watch cutting through the lies, Claire's face when she realized she'd been caught, the poetic justice of it all. And he'd smile. Not out of vengeance. But because he'd had the strength not to settle for crumbs of respect. Because he'd chosen his own dignity above all else. And that, in the end, was the real victory. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.